It's midday here at in New Jersey. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on African women in science and technology. African women are leading STEM innovation, they're breaking barriers, they're building futures. And so we're thrilled to have you join us for what promises to be an insightful and inspiring conversation. The contributions of African women to science and technology are profound, and they're growing, but they're often underrepresented. And so today, over the next 2 hours, we aim to shed light on these achievements. We want to discuss the current landscape, and we want to identify areas for growth and strategize for an even brighter future. We want to inspire the next generation. And so I'm delighted to introduce to you our incredible panelists today who will be joining us on this delightful conversation. Professor Catherine Ngila. She is currently the Executive Director of the African Foundation for Women and Youth in Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation, ESTI. The main, she's a visiting professor at the University of Johannesburg, and she works in the field of analytical and environmental chemistry, focusing on water quality, pollution monitoring, modeling methods of wastewater treatment, nanotechnology for water treatment, water purification, and development of analytical methodologies for detecting chemical substances in water. Professor Ngila has mentored well over 130 postgraduate students, postdocs, PhDs, masters, and honors chemistry. She has published over 600 publications comprising of 250 journal articles, book chapters, proceedings, and conferences and abstracts. Today, she has joined us to discuss this very important conversation. Welcome. Our next panelist is Dr. Veronica Okello. Dr. Okello is a seasoned researcher and senior lecturer at Makachos University in Kenya. She's in the Department of Physical Sciences. She has a PhD in analytical environmental chemistry from the State University of New York at Binghamton. Her work in terms of research focuses on sustainable remediation and detection techniques. She works with heavy metals, non-conventional pharmaceutical pollutants, and other emerging xenobiotics. She's affiliated with several professional organizations, including the Royal Society of Chemistry, the Kenya Chemistry Society, and the Women in Nature Network Global in Kenya. Currently, she serves as the vice chair of this organization in Kenya, and she's the research and program coordinator at Consortium for Sustainable Development in Africa. Welcome, Dr. Okello. Our next panelist is Professor Lucie Tchouassi. She is the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, Newark. She's a PhD candidate in higher education. She's focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion. She was born in Haiti, and then she moved to Jersey City as a teenager and earned her bachelor's and master's degrees in civil and transportation engineering. Dr. Lucie is one of the engineers that will be talking to us today about how she's been able to really motivate a number of women engineers, and she's co-chairs many organizations that looks to encourage women and girls into engineering. Welcome to the Toyin Falola interview. Our next panelist, of course, is Dr. Ibraheem Badejo. Dr. Badejo, he's currently the Senior Director Johnson & Johnson MedTech External Innovation. He is a servant leader, a prolific inventor, entrepreneur, and early-stage healthcare investor. His career spans many years in different roles in the medtech ecosystem. He received his PhD in organic chemistry from the University of Toledo, and currently he's serving many mentors, outstanding alumni awards. He's received a lot of recognition. He received the Science Alumni Award at Avila University in 2014 and Distinguished Alumni Award in 2022 from the University of Toledo. He is a recipient of 26 US patents. He's also well published in many peer-reviewed journals. And so I want to welcome Dr. IB to the panel. Thank you for joining us. And of course, as the facilitator, I have to introduce myself as well. And so I am Wunmi Sadik. I am currently Distinguished Professor and Vice Provost for Academic Affairs, for Faculty Affairs at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I also direct a BioSmart Center at NJIT. I joined NJIT in 2019 after spending more than 20 decades at the State University of New York at Binghamton. My research focus, I looked at different areas. I look at the, sensors, biological sensors. I look at pharmaceuticals. I look at sustainable technologies. My PhD was in Australia from University of Wollongong. I did postdoctoral research at the US Environmental Protection Agency. I have held appointments at Harvard University, Cornell, and Naval Research Lab. I currently have 5 US patents, and there's been so many recognitions of my work, collectively between peer-reviewed articles and invited lectures is well over 600. And so I want to, again, welcome everybody and thank you so much for joining us. So in order for us to get this conversation going, the first aspect of this interview, or this panel, will be to look at the achievements and strengths of women. We know that women, African women, are really advancing. They're advancing the field. They're advancing in many, many areas, in healthcare, in the environment, even in AI. And so to kick us off, I'd like to ask each of our distinguished panelists to share their perspective on the incredible progress being made from their unique perspective, from their unique vantage point. Where do they see African women currently excelling most prominently within science and technology, both on the continent and globally? And what are the key strengths or unique approaches contributing to these successes? And so I will start with Professor Ngila. Professor Ngila, as the Executive Director of the African Foundation for Women and Youth in Education and Science, Technology, and Innovation, you have a unique continental perspective. Where do you observe African women making significant breakthroughs in STEM? And what national or regional initiatives are particularly effective in fostering this excellence? Professor Ngila.
Thank you very much, Professor Sadik. And it's a pleasure again for us to share a platform together. I think we have been in contact since, I guess, quite a while back, while I was at University of Botswana. I remember you were the keynote speaker at the time, and that inspired me, actually, that this is a professor woman being a keynote speaker. And then I said, one day I will be one. So looking at what has happened, particularly in Africa, we see that we've really progressed. In fact, I must say that since 1995, during the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, where they identified about 12 areas, and some of the areas in particular is training. education and training. So since that time, we've seen a lot of progress. Many countries in Africa have tried to promote women in science, women in STEM. And in fact, as a result of that, these collective voices really have seen big numbers. I mean, in terms of the percentage of women who are excelling in STEM subjects, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, has gone up. In fact, a research was done, I think, way back in 2020 by UNESCO and the Higher Education. And they found that in Africa, graduates that are coming from African universities, 47% are women. And in fact, Africa was leading in the whole world in terms of the percentage graduates, women that are coming. But now the problem comes when we see down line, looking at the master's degree, the PhD degrees, the numbers, go down. In fact, by the time you get to women in leadership, women top scientists, particularly in STEM areas, they get less. And sometimes we can understand why, because it is during that time women are very busy with families. So having worked in different places, right now I'm in Nairobi, I'm in Kenya, but I've worked in South Africa, I've worked in Botswana, and I've interacted with various platforms. In fact, for me, the model that South Africa uses is one of the models that I love a lot. Because you see, every single year, South Africa will recognize top women scientists, women, women in agriculture, women in entrepreneurship, women in all the fields. Apart from the distinguished women researchers or scientists, we also have distinguished young women in sciences. So that program runs and is usually sponsored by the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation and managed by the National Research Foundation. I benefited a lot from that, from that program. In 2016, I was recognized as the best woman researcher in physical sciences in 2016. And in fact, that gave me some motivation. When now I saw the African Union had advertised Women in Science Awards, I also went for it, and voila, I managed to get an award representing East Africa. And 2021, I now managed to be very, must say that you become very confident. When you are recognized once, twice, three times, you become confident and you can try many things. Later on, we'll see how women suffer from imposter syndrome, that you tell yourself, I'm not good enough. Oh, no, so-and-so is good. Oh, no, this is, I've got a criteria of about 10 points, but I only qualify 9 out of 10. Oh, no, this one that is left, I will not be able to manage. You see, that is how women beat themselves. But in fact, if we encourage women, and this is why in 2023, beginning of 2023, after serving as the executive director of the African Foundation, African Academy of Sciences, and having been a university deputy vice chancellor and all that, and director in training institutions, being a chair of applied chemistry in the University of Johannesburg. Because of this exposure, I told myself, I think I was in a unique position. I managed to get a lot of exposure in so many things. And I told myself, there are so many young girls who do not have that, opportunity. What can I, I felt it was very important for me to actually start a platform or a forum. And in fact, I founded a charitable organization, not for profit, the African Foundation for Women and Youth. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Ngila. Thank you so much. So recognition is important. We need to help women to overcome imposter syndrome. We need to look for ways to motivate people so that they feel confident that this indeed is a platform that they can excel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Okello, as a senior lecturer in physical sciences in Kenya, you are on the front lines of STEM education. Can you share compelling examples of excellence you've observed among African women in the sciences, particularly at the university level or in the local communities? What teaching or learning environments are proving most successful? Dr. Okello.
Thank you very much. I am really, really delighted to be one of the panel members, and more so to be interviewed by my PhD supervisor. I was a student at SUNY Binghamton and graduated in 2014. So I'm really, really happy. So I would say that, Melinda Gates said that when we invest in women and girls, we are investing in people who invest in everyone else. And for a very, very long time, this narrative around women in STEM, especially in Africa, was one of absence. We were often told that science, technology, engineering, or mathematics were not our domains. But I would say that this particular narrative is really changing. And across the continent, we have quite a number of women who are really making impactful strides in the area of STEM. You talk about public health, environmental, and climate change. And maybe if I could just talk about environmental chemistry, which is a field that I really, really understand. And before I talk about myself, maybe I could just mention one of scientists here in Kenya. She's called Beth Koigi, who is a co-founder of an organization called Magic Water Technologies. So this organization looks at innovative technologies that have turned humidity into liquid water, which is then filtered and mineralized to be fit for human consumption. And in my research, I have applied modification of locally available materials and polymer technology through surfactant modification to help in removal of certain pollutants that are present in our water, because the locality that I live in, we suffer a lot of fluoride contamination. So I had to look for viable possibilities that can help me to remove these pollutants in water. A venture that I would say that it has been successful because my students have been able to develop this material that can remove not only fluorides in water, but also perchlorates. But I would say that this has not been easy because I came from a State University of New York, a university that had the best infrastructure, but then I found myself landing in a Machakos University, which did not have, even minimum equipment that I could use for my research. But this did not make me to give up. One, because when you have an internal fire within yourself, then, and as a woman, we know that women have this internal fire within themselves. So African women, we need to succeed. To succeed in STEM-based projects, it's not an easy path. But because of the resilience that we have, and we are carrying several multiple roles, we are scientists, we are mothers, and so on, we still have to rise to meet these global standards. So as I've mentioned, having come to a lab which did not have any equipment, I had to do my best through writing of grants, building partnerships, mobilizing my colleagues to write proposals together. And I can attest that as we are speaking now, Machakos University is one of the public universities that has a well-equipped chemistry laboratory courtesy of myself as a woman and my colleague Elizabeth Ndunda, who is also a woman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Okello. Women are making impactful strides despite challenges, using locally available materials. Professor Lucie Tchouassi, you are an Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at New Jersey Institute of Technology. You witness the journeys of many talented students, including those from African backgrounds. In what STEM disciplines are African women demonstrating exceptional talent in academic and professional settings here in the US? And what aspects of their background or approach contribute to their academic excellence and career?
Thank you, Professor Sadik. Hello, everyone. It is truly an honor and privilege to be here on this stage with so many inspiring women and others, men as well, of course. And I think it's a very crucial subject, and I'm very happy and, like I said, I feel very privileged to be here. I guess just very quickly, I'll do a quick in terms of my background, and also the focus would be more, I guess, on the engineering students and, of course, within the diaspora, right? Born and raised in Haiti, and did I know I would land here? And I'm saying it like this because support really matters. And supporting, knowing the system that our children are in, and especially within the US and the current environment, we want to make sure that they get the support. How I ended up at NJIT, because someone saw that I was capable with the math and science, and so that in me, and pushed me towards, science and technology background. So within NJIT itself, that's where I did my undergrad and graduate. I had the support starting from the Educational Opportunity Program, which, facilitate, because first gen parents, I was really on my own because my mom didn't know any more than I did in terms of the educational system. So just, getting the support there to make sure that I succeed, to make sure that I had the opportunity. So, coming from a different level now, with the background in education and both my husband and I. My husband is from Cameroon and PhD in physics. So within, we know that African and Caribbean are very true to education in terms of making sure that our students are getting educated. But we also have to be careful in the system that they go in. Is those systems, we do have a lot of very great educational system here, but they are not necessarily meant for our children. So they do not have the priority of our children in mind. So that tend to sometimes stunt the growth and potential. So we want to make sure that a lot of the PWI systems, or systems that, some of us live in areas where we don't have too many people, where these students, especially female students, are not seeing, they're not seeing it on the television. They're not seeing it anywhere. They're role model people that look like them. So to make it easier for them to be there. So within that setting, I think I focus more, especially at NJIT. I had about 1,000 students when I first started out in terms of advising mechanical engineering students, very low, still have the lowest female population, but going out there into the various the school system that are in the neighborhoods that are for our neighborhood, we now want to make sure that the content, that these students get the information, get inspired early on, making sure that they are getting built the way that they should so that they can come to NJIT and compete. They can go to MIT and be competitive. They can be to Cornell. They can be anywhere in that. We do have a number of international students, and that's the strength. Coming from, it is good, our students that are coming from Africa, they already have a lot of the foundation. So it's now getting them integrated so that they do not get lost in the system. So that they can take advantage in our potential. So in my aspect in general, when I talk, it's more about making sure that we support each other, and these type of forum set up and facilitate ways for us to be able to share information, for me to learn more on how I can better integrate our international students, our African students, our Afro-Caribbean students, or women students into these programs. I also urge collaboration in terms of collaboration with HBCU universities who are more about nurturing Black students and from wherever they're from. So we want to make sure that we learn from the way they nurture them, or make that collaboration, PWI making collaboration with HBCU to make sure that we do that, so that the students do not get the imposter syndrome, that they feel that they do belong. They have role models that can help them. They have mentors and stuff. So help them to find their voice. I think there's a lot of women organization, like the Society of Women Engineers, the National Society of Black Engineers, for me, even sororities and fraternities. These organizations are there to really help our students find their voice so that they can be able to help set up the platform and bring others along. So I hope I have answered most of the questions, and I look to speak more on other questions as we talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, overcome imposter syndrome, provide support, help them, they are not the priority in the environment in which they are. And how do we prioritize? Dr. Ivy, you're a prolific inventor, entrepreneur, and early-stage healthcare investor. Your career spans many years in different roles in the med tech. In your current role at J&J, Johnson & Johnson, as an external innovator leader, you provide external innovation support, you provide counsel, you provide platforms, you help advance early stage innovation and opportunities. Can you tell us from your vantage point, what areas do you see that the Africans in diaspora, African women struggle? How do we help them?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sadik, and also to all the panelists that are on this panel. I am honored and humbled to join this panel. And my story is, it's unlike many stories. I came to the US with $50 in my pocket and a scholarship. And that's how I landed in New York. But over time, I look back and I say, as a believer, I say, Lord, I am grateful. One of my products now globally sold over 10 billion. And when I looked at, how this has happened, again, I'll go back to the saying that I could have dropped out of college. Let me be honest. When I went to Avila University, even though I had a scholarship, after the second year of the payment of the scholarship, money wasn't forthcoming. But I had a mentor that said, you're going to pull through this. We're going to find a way to make it happen for you. When I finished, because I was so dirt poor, I wanted to go get a job. Because I thought, I wasn't making money. Now I have a BS in chemistry. Guess what? I could be making 20,000. from where I was and from where I was going to be, to me, that's, heaven. She called me into the office and said, Ebe, you're going to graduate school. So what? She mentored me and shared paths that I could go to graduate school without having to pay a penny. If that mentorship had not existed, if she hadn't taken an interest in me, knowing that I have the capacity, I have the capability, but I didn't know what next to do. What next? And for her to take time to guide me through the whole process. And I went to graduate school. And by the time I finished my graduate school, I received Outstanding Graduate Student Award. I was awarded a Petroleum Research Fund Fellow. That catapulted me. A key aspect is mentorship. To have individuals that are really committed. And that is how I live my life now. I mentored. I have, even when I say Black woman, young Black, especially in my office, when I see young Black women, literally step out and tell them, hey, how are you doing? When did you start here? What's your role? By the way, set up 30 minutes with me. I invite them to do that. I have been awarded 3 Standard of Leadership Award at Johnson & Johnson. I've taken an interest because individuals pour their lives into me. And I see these young women especially, they walk around, a little bit with their head down. And, especially when they're just finishing school, they just new at a role. Giant is a big organization. So I've taken it upon myself to mentor, to guide. I was also fortunate to have met a young lady when I was at Next Einstein Forum in Senegal, recognizing a couple of years later, she reached out to me and said, Ebe, I have started a foundation called Viziola Foundation. Can you be on the board? And I said, sure. So I support her, providing early STEM education to individuals in Nigeria, in Ghana. And now, one of the graduates of that program is at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. The individual that I saw in that early stage, I'm mentoring her now. When she's going through challenges with her professor, I say, Rachel, I want you to lay it out. What is going on? How can I help you? How can we work together to solve this? So, for me, key, Africans, women, men, when we come to many organizations, when we come to many roles, when we come to academia, we're the only ones, especially in the US, or we're the very few. And at times, we underestimate ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ivy. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your stories, for for giving us a sense of, you can make it. It's okay. But let's take a look at, let's try to demystify STEM, okay? Beyond the lab coat, beyond the hard hat for the engineers, could you, as a panelist, describe a day in the life that truly captures the essence of your work in STEM? What's one surprising aspect of your job that people outside the field might not expect? I'll give you my own example. When I declared to be a chemistry major at the University of Lagos, nobody in my family, everybody wanted to be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. Those are the only areas that are open to you in Africa. Went home and told my mother, I want to be a chemistry major. She said, what? What is that? She has no idea. I had to start by explaining to her that the kerosene she uses to cook comes from the petroleum that Nigeria gets from the ground. I explained the process of how we get kerosene and we get everything else from petroleum. That Nigeria is a petroleum producing country. I explained all of that. It didn't make any sense. But then her conclusion was, if anyone is willing to pay you to do this work, it's probably worth doing. The only person that understood, that supported me, was my dad. We need men in our lives. Today, Nigeria has one of the largest petrochemical refinery in the world. The Dangote refinery has a capacity to refine over 600,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Now, what does that mean to you as a nation? How is that going to help us as a continent? This refinery, the Dangote refinery alone, is the world's largest single train refinery. It will be the largest refinery in the world after it reaches 700,000 barrels per day. And what can it do? What does it mean? Before you can get pharmaceuticals, you need petrochemicals. Before you can get all the plastics that you have, you need petrochemicals. All of the tires and everything that you walk around, you need petrochemicals. People don't understand that the basic science is what leads to the technology that we have. Without chemistry, you don't have AI. And so can you paint a picture for us? What's a typical day like for you as a scientist? And so I'm going to go back to Dr. IB, who is in industry. Please give us a picture of what goes on in your day, in a typical day.
I was laughing, Dr. Sadik, because I had a similar scenario. I came to the US to go to medical school. And I took organic chemistry, and I thought this is the best thing that ever happened. And I remembered calling my dad that I was going to switch to chemistry. My dad said, "What? She chemistry, if you want to change to chemistry, you should have done that in Nigeria." But God bless him. He still supported me, even though he disagreed with what I was studying. Now, the chemistry is what gave me the foundation of what I'm doing today. But I'm far away removed from wearing lab coats. And I have been very fortunate to have groups and I lead groups that have, I have some people may think it's an impossible idea. But I'm not deterred by the impossibility. I remember when we're innovating on Demobond, this is chemistry. Traditionally, people close wounds with suture or stitches. The challenge is that, can we do it different? Can we come up with an innovation where you can glue the wound together such that the patient can go home and take a shower? If you suture, you can take a shower for, several days. How can we make the life of the patient improve their lives? We came up with that innovation. So a typical day in mine, that was then. Now, I spend time listening to people with great, smarter than I am, great ideas, but they still sought me out to give them guidance. My analytical skills that I was taught, not analytical chemistry, Dr. Sadik, but to reason, to think, critical thinking. The STEM education gave me those foundations.
Thank you.
And failure was not an option too. So I'll talk about that later. So those are the things that, to me, has been instrumental to place me where I am today.
Thank you. We've looked at our challenges. We've looked at personal stories. Let's take a little detour in terms of, like if you look in Africa, we have all these deep-seated social cultural norms. There are gender roles. There are traditional beliefs in various African societies that is posing challenges for girls and women to pursue and excel in the STEM fields. And so what are the root causes of these challenges? I think that we mentioned that I think Professor Ngila mentioned briefly about this imposter syndrome. Professor Ngila, you have been able to surmount these challenges. You have been able to overcome and to lead and to excel within the African context. Can you describe a little bit or help us in terms of the stereotypes about women's roles, the pressure to marry early, limited mobility, the family expectations? How can we move forward?
No, thank you, Prof. Again. Definitely. When we look back, particularly when I look back in the early days, I must say that I was one of those lucky young girls growing in my village in Kenya. Because my dad was very exposed. There was he fought in the Second World War. He had traveled the world, and so when he came back after the war, he wanted his girls to study, and so he was my chaperone. In fact, I remember when I finished my O levels. Remember, we went through the British system, so O levels and A levels. So when I finished my O levels, and I was taken to go and do my advanced level, Form 5 and Form 6, and it was a school that was far from home. I remember him writing to me, and he used to write Mr. So I used to call Mr. Catherine Ngila. And when I interpret, because in Swahili we say Bwana, Bwana so-and-so. Bwana means somebody you respect. And it has to be a man because culturally we don't really respect women as per se. So my dad used to write letters on the envelope, and the girls would come in the dormitory. Hey, your dad has written, because they knew it's only my dad who calls me Mr. But why was my dad calling me Mr.? Because I was the first child of so many children in our family. We had extended families to actually do A levels. The rest of the ones who were ahead of me went up to Form 4, that is O levels. And so I was the first to do A levels. And for him, that was big. And he used to think that I'm doing a degree. So I used to say that my daughter is going to get the biggest degree. So coming back, so in other words, growing up in the village, I never felt discouraged, and my dad never made you feel that you must get married. No, if anything, he cheered us on for us to, and I think that is what gave me the courage to study, to advance myself, but also some of the background in terms of the STEM fields. It is my mathematics teacher in primary school, who was a distant cousin. And he used to beat me because he doesn't understand why any boy can beat me in class, because we are related. And so because I was scared of being beaten, I had to study mathematics. And so I became very good in maths out of fear. And later on, mathematics really helped me. Chemistry, my chemistry teacher, I loved the way he taught moles and, conversion of moles and grams and everything. So that again excited me. So my journey of chemistry came as a result of background and also mentors, and also looking up to the people who taught me. So today, when we talk about the leadership, we still do not have so many women who are leaders in the field in science. I must say that when I became the executive director of the African Academy of Sciences, I was the first woman after 35 years of the existence of the academy to be a woman leader. So, so the question is, why? Are you telling me we didn't have women to become executive directors and CEOs at the time? And I think it's just the stereotypes. So I think after that, I think many women now later came on. And I think this encouragement of women to lead, to take leadership in different fields, in science, in STEM, I think we have to continue singing and clapping for them. I must say that is the journey continues, and I'm very, very happy today that we have got many role models that young girls can look up to. Thank you.
Can
Thank
I ask
you.
a policy question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Dr. Sadik?
Yes, please.
Please, and I'm sorry for
Yes.
I want to ask a policy question. Can we create all universities just for women? Kenya has a woman-only university. Do you think we can make this proposal? Thank you. Any of you can answer.
Yes. Okay. So we have got universities of women. Well, in Kenya, I think we have got one university that is called Kiriri University of Women in Science and Technology. And that is good in that it gives an opportunity for women to excel, and also that we are showcasing the women. But also for me, it is also very important in the field of STEM to recognize women. When I came back from South Africa after many years, I asked the Kenya, the National Research Foundation Fund, the CEO is somebody I'm familiar. I said, why is it that we don't recognize women in Kenya? And I was so happy. A year later, we had the first festival where women are being recognized. And in fact, 60% of the women who scored the awards 60% of the people who scored the awards were women. And so I was so excited that that culture has picked up, that we must, encourage women by recognizing them. So recognition awards are really, really important because it encourages young girls and even also young women to keep on pushing up. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Okello, would you like to contribute to this policy question? Okay, I think she's.
I was going to say, I can add something in terms of
Go ahead.
two things, right? The policy. I mean, I've seen or visited at least the HBCU, like Spelman University, which is all women. And you see how the women are nurtured, and they do have like the collaboration, let's say with Georgia Tech. So if you are a student that really into communication and you went to engineering or STEM, you can get that. You'll get the nurture, especially in the beginning, where you can find yourself and really be able to, learn and accept yourself, embrace yourself. And that's the one thing I tell the students a lot. It's so embrace your culture, embrace who you are, and it is not a fight. It's not that you are being rebellious just because you are proud to be Black or to be Black in African descent or to be straight, straight from Africa or straight from the Caribbean. So you have to, and these are the place sometimes where the students embrace your womanhood. And I say most important, as wherever you go in the industry, right? Being an engineer, when I graduated, I only had like 7 of us out of 150. And I stepped in working in the field and stuff. And then I'll just be, the only woman or the only Black woman there, especially. And the most important thing is to know yourself and know the material. Always come authentic. Go make sure that you prepare, and that this way, when you come, you have the confidence. Okay, I know what I'm talking about. This is how things goes, and then it helps you. It's not about who's in the room. It's about you and presenting your best self and your most informed self. So then this way it helps, avoid being, okay, this woman doesn't know what she's talking about. And some people will say that, but you will know. And going back to all the mentorship and the supports and the stuff, those help you to find your voice. And a lot of women organizations help you do that. And so that I think is important, just to help them find the authentic self early on. And I think sometimes it's easier to find within all women setting at first and stuff, but we also have to make sure that they do have the confidence to be anywhere in any setting, to be able to express themselves and have that able to communicate.
Thank you. Thank you. I like to add to this question about the policy. There are things that governments can do. There are things that non-governmental organizations can do. There are things that the private sectors can do. For example, in terms of policy and funding, we can develop and implement national STEM policies that explicitly prioritize gender equality and actively work to eliminate biases at all levels of education and career progression. We've already mentioned how women, there's paucity of women in leadership. For example, we can ensure that at least 50% women participation is there in recruitment, in promotion, in decision-making committees. We can increase funding and scholarships specifically for girls and women pursuing STEM education and research. We can incentivize higher education institutions and research organizations to amend and even modify their gender mainstream strategies with adequate resources. We can allocate research funding to promote gender equality in scientific careers. We can incorporate gender dimensions into research and innovation. We can create reform within the education to integrate hands-on science. It should not be that when they get to overseas, before they even see how to practice science, it should go beyond just memorizing facts to being able to be digitally literate. For girls at the very early stage, from the primary and secondary schools, we can strengthen the capacity of STEM teachers by training them, by providing tools, by providing resources to promote them to be able to engage students very early on. We can look at the workplace environment as well. We can look at establish and implement gender-friendly policy frameworks that can promote work-life balance. We can address, there's a lot that we can do. We can appoint women to decision-making bodies in STEM, maybe like scientific and administrative boards, like recruitment and promotion committees. There's a lot that we can do. Professor Falola asked about, can we create, there's a all-women institution. There's a lot that we can do. We don't have to wait for the government to do that. AI, for example, is advancing tremendously. Where would Africa be in 10 years? Are we going to be left behind? Can we utilize the resources that we have? I'm going to give Dr. Okello some opportunity to chip in.
Okay, so thank you very much. I also wanted to chip in on that conversation, because we know that African women in STEM, we are not just we are no longer just participants, but we are also problem solvers, innovators, and even change makers. So I'm thinking that it is also important for the government and whoever is creating those policies to shift from donor mentality to investment mindset. Because in most cases, we normally have situations where we have, just one-time donations where they have checkbox CSR projects, and it is important that instead of having such situations, they co-fund STEM incubators or research labs at universities where women-led innovations exist. And why am I saying that this is important? Because women often lead inclusive, socially aware innovations, and investing in them often results in solutions with deeper community roots and higher sustainability. It's also just important that they think about co-designing mentorship and mentorship programs, a situation that has been talked about. But most importantly, I'm also thinking about how about procuring of from women-led STEM startups, because I'm thinking that this will strengthen local supply chains, and also it will kind of like reduce import dependency, and in the long run, build resilience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Habib, would you like to contribute to that
Yes,
policy question?
sure. Thank you, because I was just sitting there and I was, there's various aspects that I wanted to add to it. One, I appreciate Dr. Okello thinking about, without letting the bag out, for the future to have a fund. Studies have shown that startups, companies led by women, does better than men. The success, a lot of startups fail. The success for companies that are founded by women has a high level of success than men. If that is the statistics, we can see in the near future where we can create a fund committed to helping women entrepreneurs in science and innovation and health tech, to fund them, to take them to an inflection point. Again, without letting the bag out. That is the vision that I have. We also want to talk about corporate partnership. At Johnson & Johnson, we have WinSTEP. And what is that program for? Is to identify women, early career, to provide the funding support to get them to be promoted from an assistant professor to an associate. We know it takes that chasm of just assistant to associate. How do we support women to accomplish that? Why not the same thing in Africa? And third, we talk about sustainability. And I think this is what at times breaks my heart. We start something with a lot of excitement. I was part of the Next Einstein Forum, happened in Rwanda in 2016, in Senegal in 2016. In 2018, it happened in Kigali. In 2020, it was going to happen in Kenya. What are we trying to do? Identify African innovators and provide the right support for them. Since it's after 2020, it's never happened again. How do we sustain that? So at times we're very excited to start something. How do we ensure that it's sustainable? Put the right infrastructure in place. So as we're thinking about women, African women, not only do we build the infrastructure, but how do we provide the right resources to continue to sustain? And we don't have to go for the goal to start with. We start small, build on top of it, show success. And at times, people that are standing, sitting on sidelines will join once they see success. But at times we go for the bank and it flops. So for me, I can see, Professor Okello, what you're saying is spot on. Create a fund. It doesn't have to be several millions. It could be 1 million. It could be 2 millions. Identify early stage companies, innovators of women. And that encourages the girls to step up, because they are now seeing the mechanism for them to impact our world, but honestly be rich in the course of doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. For example, in Nigeria, there was this recent National Energy Fund that actually encouraged people to come up with innovative solutions. It's a big contribution competition. There are 3 levels of competition and it's not government funded. But let's think about this. Beyond traditional funding, what targeted infrastructure and investment changes, both public and private, are most critical to accelerate STEM growth and innovation in Africa? Can you provide some concrete examples of successful models? Dr. Ibe just gave us some examples, even though we don't, we like this to be continuous. Professor Ngila, do you have any example from your vantage point in the UN? Dr. Ngila Okello said, let's go beyond the donation mentality. Let's go beyond some NGOs coming to save us. Let's go beyond somebody just donating something to you. Can we be self-sustaining?
I like to give examples. Thank you. I like to give examples in situations that really I've experienced, and but also try in sub-Saharan Africa. I've traveled quite a number of countries in Africa, and I realized that the southern region, that is the SADC, we've got countries in South Africa, in Botswana, in Namibia. They are investing a lot in infrastructure in science. Countries other than the southern region, we find other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, we're not investing. And I like what Veronica said, we are not investing in infrastructure because how do you expect a student, a BSc student in chemistry, to go and complete BSc having not even entered a lab? I mean, they have never seen a lab. You just draw the equipment on the board to show how they look like, but the kids are not having hands-on experience. So that really becomes a challenge. But like I said, we've got very well equipped institutions in Africa, governments that are prioritizing infrastructure in Africa in terms of trying to get us the best, scientists. Unfortunately, I only think of examples of the country that I found, they have done very well in terms of that, infrastructure. That is now South Africa. And when you look at the, universities like the University of Cape Town, University of Witwatersrand, visit their labs, University of KwaZulu-Natal, University of Johannesburg, visit the labs and you see there's a marked difference between those labs and labs elsewhere in Africa. So, and then the question is why the governments are not investing in infrastructure. A big question. I really wish I would, somebody can really be able to study why we are not prioritizing science. And I like what you said about the United Nations. I sit in the 10-member group of United Nations STI for SDGs. And we monitor the policies to see how Africa, not just Africa, but other countries, but personally, I've been focusing on Africa, how Africa has been able to use STI to implement the SDGs. And I look at reports like the AUDA-NEPAD, that is African Union Development Agency, New Partnership for Development, and because they have got case studies of which countries are doing what. And when you look at it, then you realize that in Africa, we are not prioritizing science. And yet, when COVID came, we saw that only countries that have invested in medical facilities are the ones who have been able to come up with the vaccine for COVID-19. So I think we need to have that conversation, and governments need to continue having that conversation so that we can be able to prioritize science, because STI is solving problems, global challenges, as well as African challenges. So that is something I'm very passionate about, going to a university and labs are not working. There is no equipment. So how do you expect a BSc student to survive in such an environment, really? It disappoints me a lot in some of our African, institutions.
Thank you. You mentioned STI.
Yes.
For the audience, for the benefit of the audience, let's just define STI. Science, right. Technology, and innovation. That's STI.
Correct. Yes.
When the Organization of African Unity, OAU, was going to be founded, Kwame Nkrumah, in fact, there's a particular quotation from him that always used, was, we're gonna build this, we're gonna build that, we're gonna make Africa the top in terms of science. That was the vision of the founding fathers of OAU. And we look now, and it looks like in fact, we're not just advancing in science, we're waiting for the hands me down. Like you mentioned, the COVID-19. We didn't
Yes.
build the virus. We didn't have the infrastructure. We were waiting for them to send it to us. But if you look at the mechanism, the technology for immunization itself, it came from Africa.
Yeah.
For antibodies, for the immunization, it was an African slave that told them, look, if somebody has smallpox and you take the fluid from their body and then you expose it to somebody who has not been infected, they become immune to it. That is the principle of immunization. And now we have become, well, we don't want to be left behind. And so let's talk about what can we do? What is it that academic institutions do? What curricular changes do we need? What pedagogical changes? What support systems do we need? What research and innovation system do we need? What sort of collaborations do we need within the African institutions so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel? Institutions in South Africa, for example, are well equipped.
Yes.
But in the Eastern Africa, is there any collaboration? Is there any crosstalk between the different institutions? Dr. Okello, would you like to say something about that? Or anybody who has some inputs on that?
Yes, I'd like to talk about that. So I really like that question because I have examples that have worked for me, and one of them I'll talk about having or sharing research infrastructure, because as Professor Ngila said, most of our African universities, they actually lack advanced lab equipment that can help us to carry out cutting edge kind of research. And in most cases, in certain situations, these infrastructures are very expensive, and those who have it, they are underutilized. So talking about a successful model that has worked for me, through my collaboration with one of the universities in the US, that is the University of Illinois in Chicago, we wrote a proposal together, and through that proposal, we gained a user agreement between Machakos University, that is my university, and Argonne National Laboratories in the US. So now researchers from my university can access some of the state-of-the-art scientific instrumentation at Argonne. So all they need to do is just to look for or cover their accommodation and travel. And I'm thinking that similar models could be replicated in Africa, with the national and regional hubs accessible to all accredited institutions. And apart from that, I would also say that it is important to invest in people, funded fellowships, exchange programs, and skills and development. Like an example of a successful model that has worked for me, and I'm so happy that this model is between African institutions. So Machakos universities, we have 2 universities in Kenya, and then we have one university in Nigeria, and 2 universities in Ghana. So we have developed a consortium called COSUDAF, so it's Consortium for Sustainable Development in Africa. And through a project called the Yemaya Project, we are currently supporting African women in science through a fully funded 6-month traineeship in a university in Germany. So these women, they're able to gain hands-on experience in cutting-edge labs and return home better equipped to lead in research and even mentor others. Like, for example, in my university, one of the cohort students who through this collaboration went to TUBAF, we have currently engaged her as a part-timer because she learned a lot of electrochemical techniques. So she's using that knowledge to teach our students. And just her fellow students seeing her able to do that, they are so motivated, and they also want to pursue a career in STEM. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Ngila, were you aware, are you aware of consortium within the Southern Africa where facilities are set up? I know that there's one in South Africa. I was part of the NRF, where people can come and use instrumentation. You don't all have to buy. I mean, to do science and technology is not cheap. It's very, very expensive. And so, but if there is a process in place where consortiums can be created, facilities could be created for minimal fees, so that students and researchers can have access to state-of-the-art facilities. If anybody has knowledge that they'd like to share from that perspective, please chip in.
Yeah. So again, I give an example in South Africa. We've got in South Africa, they have got Itemba Labs. Itemba Labs is, labs that have hosting this high-end equipment in, molecular diagnostics. We've got high-powered nuclear magnetic resonance. This high-level equipment. So they keep them in different. In Cape Town, in Johannesburg, in Durban. And all this is so that they can be able to access, because not every single university can afford to buy, very expensive equipment. They also have got the NRF, that is the National Research Foundation, has got equipment, call for equipment investment, whereby, they can give you about, say, about $1 million to buy equipment. And this equipment, when you buy, you don't just buy and keep it in your lab alone. The NRF has got a database, and it shows who is hosting which equipment, so that if I want to move from university A to B, I can be able to, to visit those institutions to go and utilize the equipment. And in fact, they also give you mobilization funds. That means that if I want to travel to Cape Town from Johannesburg, then NRF, I apply for mobility funds and I get the funds. So that is a really good model. And I when I came back from Kenya, when I came back to Kenya, I tried to speak with the Kenya National Commission for, for Science, Technology, Innovation, the NRF also, say, why don't we create centers of excellence so that we know the government cannot afford to equip every single university in Kenya, but we can be able to create centers of excellence so that people can move, students and lecturers alike and scientists can move to those laboratories and provide mobility funds so that they can go and do their experiments. And then, of course, we equip these laboratories and provide instrument scientists, because we need somebody who has got the capacity and the knowledge to train and show how the equipment works. So that model, we have not really gone there, but at least we are moving in that particular direction. When you look at the African Union, you realize that the idea of African Union creating the Pan-Africa University, that is PAU, and having campus in 5 regions of Africa. Nigeria is hosting one of them, I think University of Ibadan. Kenya is hosting one, Jomo Kenyatta University. Algeria is hosting, and these are specialization in different fields, water, energy, and so forth, and some basic sciences and all that. What was the idea for African Union to do that? I think it was part of the STISA 2024. That is Science Technology Strategy for Africa. It was a 10-year period, which was from 2014 to 2024. Now we have started the 2025 to 2034. And this is to advance that. So that's that idea, or that strategy to advance science, technology, and innovation was to ensure that different regions in Africa have got access to these centralized facilities. So I think for me to date, I still think that if we can create more centers, East Africa, let's create centers in East Africa. If no, Kenya cannot afford, or Tanzania or other countries cannot afford to have these equipment, let's put money together. We create centers of excellence. West Africa, the same. Central Africa, the same. So this, for me, this is an idea that really would really assist our scientists, our students, our scientists to actually advance in their skills in terms of the science, technology, innovation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please,
I think we'll, yep.
sorry. We
we
ask
will
another policy or
audience. Yeah, go ahead.
Can we not begin to create new disciplines and fields, merging STEM with the humanities? For example, a degree in technology and culture, a degree in English and chemistry. That is one. The other is models that begin to say, why is it that everybody must have a degree? China downgraded many universities into technical universities, almost 3,000 universities. Is it not possible to say, okay, we will link STEM with informal sectors so that the kind of questions they were asking you, are you going to get a job with it, will no longer arise? I know these are difficult questions for you, but I'm just pushing you to say, can we not begin to do things in a different manner? Thank you.
Thank you. I will address the first point, which is, can we combine degrees in technology and culture? Yes, we talk about STEM, but in the actual fact, we're now talking about STEAM, where we have science, technology, engineering, arts, and medicine. Because at the beginning of knowledge, everything existed together. It is a silo, now that's actually creating the separation that we're seeing. Because people come from different perspectives. You have all the quantitative skills, you have the artistic skills, you have the cultural skills. You blend things together to make a whole. Dr. Habi, would you like to address that?
Yeah, thanks for, I did not go to Harvard nor Yale or whatever, but I went to a liberal arts college. Why is that important? Yeah, even my degree is in chemistry, but I was exposed to many disciplines that prepared me well. And I think that is also helped in my leadership skills, because I wasn't just a scientific geek, but I had, part of what I learned is about justice, part of what I learned about religion, part of what I learned about philosophy, part of what I learned about this, languages. This, all to me made me a rounded, actually a better scientist, because I was able to, understand humanity better and equip me. And I, in my role, actually, I believed that how I engage with everyone helped me is as a result of having a liberal arts education. When I'm in a meeting, I make sure everyone is heard. Literally, I go back because that empathy, that recognition came from the fact that I was taught that humanity, we're all equal. We're all good. It's goodness. And I think when we take, there's nothing wrong just being so scientific discipline, but I think it gets to a stage where your liberal arts brings you up, makes you shine, as opposed to being a scientific geek.
Professor Lucie, Do you have anything to tell us, to teach us there? And then we go to the audience.
Okay, just quickly, I think I wanted to piggyback a lot on what everybody was saying in terms of the center that Professor Ngila was saying and stuff. It's important, right? We can almost think it as we need to take control in order to make things happen. And like Professor IB said, you don't have to start big, right? You start with what you have. And you can use a concept as simple as the tontine, because we all know that, and you can use something as simple as that. Maybe we use that simple to build a center here. And then we know that everybody at different location that we're going to set up regional centers within those areas and stuff so that we know that the groups that we have will come together and help put together a center in one of the Eastern countries that might not have so many. So those things that we can do, it's important that we do take control because we realize when we take control, we make things more, we can make things happen and we do more than waiting for a handout. We do have the resources. They are being exploited in a lot of ways. So how do we make sure that we overtake the control of the resources that we have so we can make the best use of those? So that's I think that's the important stuff. So it's for us to be proactive and start with what we have and use simple concept. And the exchange programs are very good. Maybe there's none at this location. Maybe we can take few students there so that they can be exposed. Maybe some of it can be some different stuff that can be done virtually at first also. So we just want to make sure that we do get them exposed and maybe early on. So I'm just going to end that we have to make sure that we be proactive, work with what we have, and take control.
Thank you. Thank you. We can take questions from the audience.
Okay, members of the audience, if you have comments or questions, please raise your hand so that we can locate you.
We see Eunice.
Eunice Ajayi.
Yeah.
Eunice Ajayi. Please, go ahead.
You can unmute yourself, please.
Why waiting?
Yeah, please. My question is, we're looking at inclusivity and we want to bring all women on board. But I'm asking, is it possible for us to do total inclusivity? Because if you look at some of the offers that we offer, it ends up being the gifted and the talented few that are selected, but we have several others. And one of the panel member was talking about her being selected on some awards that boosted her confidence that yes, she has it all. But if you are not selected and you are still within the space and we are preaching inclusivity, how do you get that kind of recognition and the confidence for you to know that what you are doing, you are also contributing into STEM as a woman? Thank you.
Thank you. Any panelists who would like to address that? Total inclusivity.
Let me come for this. Just this weekend, I came from the rural areas, schools in the rural areas, and we decided university lecturers from that particular region, we all come together from different universities and we got to visit schools. And it happens that I chose a school that where I went to school, that is my alma mater. And so what we were doing, we were trying to demonstrate to the kids. We wanted to bring the university to the school so that those children who have never seen a university lecturer then they can be sort of inspired. Okay, so something happened while we were in that mentorship program. We called it Academic Clinic. So one of the professors asked the students, this is a school that has got 1,200 girls, and asked the students, any of you do we have anybody here who has never shaken hands with a university lecturer, somebody who is a doctor or who is a professor? And the students, all of them, they raised their hands. He said, okay, so which one of you has, shaken hands with them? And none of them raised their hand. And so we decided, the university lecturers who had gone there, we stood there and told the whole school to come and shake our hands. So we stood there and when we came out, it was so exciting. But I think addressing the question or the point that one of the colleagues has raised is, what about if you are the best student, you are being recognized, what about the students who are lacking behind at the bottom? And during that mentorship program, I said, we are going to choose students who are at the bottom and the students who are at the top and the student in the middle. And so we had smaller groups interactions, and we wanted to find out, why is it that you are failing in physics? I know it is a girls' school, and girls generally, stereotypes, don't do physics. So we said, why is it you don't do physics? And some of them said, physics is for men. Physics is for men and mathematics is for men. So that is why I just decided I do history and literature, not that it is wrong. And I like the idea of the liberal arts where you do physics and English, physics and culture. So it is quite encouraging. And I must say that is something that we must promote, that we need to look at those kids who are lagging behind. They feel they can never make it, and they give up so early. We need to pick those girls and those students and put them in groups such that they can start now feeling that they also belong. Recognize them for something. You can say good behavior. You are a well-behaved girl, and she's going to have esteem because, oh, I was chosen as the best behaved girl. I was chosen as the best dressed girl. That boosts the morale, and people start feeling that, oh, okay, I am important actually, as much as I'm not doing very well in chemistry and mathematics and physics. So yeah, these are just some of the ideas. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I
Total
challenge,
inclusivity.
I was going to challenge, there's something going on in the US now where, and at times I struggle with it. I'm just being, transparent. Is, when my son was 6 years old or 7 years old, he's in a soccer, group, and everyone gets an award. And I'm saying, what did you do to earn that? So how do we balance that? I'm just being, because while we're trying to, make everyone feel nice and good and warm and fuzzy, the real world is not like that. The real world is cutthroat competitive. I'm not saying we should live our lives to be, cutthroat and competitively driven. But that being said, we're called to a higher order. We're called to live our best. We're called to stand up. But if we give everyone an award, aren't we creating mediocrity? I'm just, don't let me go on my own.
Thank you. O'Connor Four, we see your hands raised.
Yeah, thank you very much. The moderator, my name is Professor Friday Okonofua. I'm speaking from Nigeria. I'm the current Secretary General of the African Academy of Sciences. I've listened to the presentations very well. I want to congratulate all the panelists for very excellent presentations. And I'm really delighted and happy to be here. And I look forward to the opportunity that some of the recommendations from this discussion will go forward. I think one of the most important recommendations I see, based on what we've talked about, deficit of infrastructures for science, research, and education in all African countries, is the need for us to get the government buy-in. Let's get the support of governments in all of the discussions, in all the recommendations we're making. I really liked what Professor Catherine Ngila said about South Africa, And this is a model that other African countries can exemplify. I want to say quite clearly that without involving governments, without African governments showing more commitment to disbursing funds for research, for education, prioritizing women's education, women's in science research, and opportunity created for women, this will not happen. So I want to very strongly recommend, and I believe that the African Academy of Science is already doing that, we do science advocacy, and to ensure that we as scientists, we are both individual advocates for science. We must not allow only academics to do it alone. We as scientists must take on that responsibility of ensuring that we get our governments involved. I'm very happy with South Africa. And indeed, since I've been Secretary General of the African Academy of Science, only in South Africa I've seen such political commitment showing in terms of providing funds for research. I can say mostly South Africa. So I think that this can be replicated. And I want to thank this session. It's very well known. And I look forward to seeing the recommendations to use it to work for better involvement in science in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Valencia.
Hold on. Professor Oak. Dr. Okonofua, please don't go. Olabisi Onabanjo University and University of Ghana, they've set up a partnership on cancer research to combine their resources. Is it not possible in some areas of need that we combine many universities in partnership within a country, and we also combine many universities at the sub-regional level as a cost-saving device? Is this doable?
Do you want me to respond to that?
I was asking you,
it's very doable. It's a very good concept, but I've had the opportunity of having had these sort of experiences in Nigeria over several years, and I found out to very great chagrin that many African universities have not been successful in working together. I don't want to say that they don't want to work together. They have been more successful in working with northern universities. By contrast, we are saying that that partnership between the African universities and northern universities tended to be colonialist in orientation. I presented a paper where I talked about decolonization. And I think it would be a good idea for African universities to work together in order to decolonize the policy of research that currently engages us with northern universities. It's not a bad thing, but that engagement will be very, very important and critical. So I think it's good, but it's currently not happening. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to refer to the State T1 program that Professor Ngila referred to earlier. As part of the earlier ideas for OAU, it was decided that African governments would put 2% of their GDP into science and technology. I don't know any African government that is putting 2% of their GDP into science and technology. We're waiting for hand-me-downs because we believe that it must be given to us as a gift. Science is not cheap. Technology costs money and years to do research and to get advances. Unless we take the leadership and find our place in the world, we will continue to be colonizing our minds. We need the process of decolonization. The founding fathers of African OAU did not imagine that we will continue to be colonized. Palesa?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are, colleagues. Thank you very much, Professor Sadik. Yeah, I don't know if it's questions or comments, but I have a lot to say because I think the conversation is really prompting a number of questions, but also ideas. But maybe let me also just to what Prof. Falola had asked in terms of universities and partnerships, right? And Prof. Falola, I'm not attempting to respond to this, but I think, oh, by the way, yes, it's Dr. Palesa Skhajane, but then I do prefer to go by Palesa Skhajane. I am the Deputy Executive Dean in the Natural Sciences at one of the universities. Now, when you want to usher in the conversation or the aspects of the decolonized model of getting universities to collaborate across the continent, quickly the conversation regresses to the core business of the university to produce the graduates, right? And you are left to the device of recurriculating. So designing curriculum that would address the decolonization aspects that we are wanting to see. But also quickly it moves on to does the market or a sector exist to absorb such skills that are trained in that decolonized approach? And I also want to tie this into what I think Prof. Ngila mentioned earlier on in terms of STISA, STS, a strategy for Africa, being 11, it's 11th year now. I think so. STISA being bold in its aspirations, but also the question of the defunding of research and innovation, or research in particular, research and development in the continent. As you say, that we are yet to see a country that has invested about 2% of its GDP towards the science, technology, and innovation. In Africa, yes, we have not reached that milestone. But also, I think the question or curiosity that always drives me is that if we are struggling to invest or to put in that 2% of GDP that we seek to achieve as countries, yet the discourse today, I'll take a typical discourse today in the continent, access to healthcare, for instance. I'm in South Africa, and we know the debates about access to healthcare and just how much is a sad story. So I'm quite curious in terms of those who are in the position of decision making or designing these policies. Yet while we know that we remain with the highest unemployment and the graduates that we seek to produce, they will follow career paths that will land them into the job market. Amongst other bold steps, for instance, in South Africa that has taken is that we need to drive the entrepreneurship. So in the universities, they're driving the entrepreneurship activities to ensure that it's not only at the postgraduate level, but then they can start to have these graduates participating in an innovation and entrepreneurship space quite earlier on in their careers, which is quite good because it's towards addressing the unemployment challenges. So my issue is, or my question rather, is that when we are wanting to take regional approach as far as promoting universities' collaborations across the continent, we also need to take into consideration the country strategies that assist us to assess which countries are ready or they are interested in diversifying their policies in order to usher in the much anticipated outcomes. If it's about unemployment and really ensuring that we have a transformative agenda when it comes to research and development. Therefore, it should not be a one-man show or waiting for the handouts. Yes, today everybody talks about China because China is consistent in terms of investing in the STI, the One Road, One Belt initiative, which is for many years. And every scientist in China understands the One Road, One Belt initiative. Every scientist, no matter that you're producing a needle, no matter that you're producing a semiconductor, no matter that you're just producing nanoparticles whatsoever. So I think that the agenda of decolonization and transformation, we need a particular kind of a scientist that is not only thinking at the level of a petri dish, but is able to also elevate from petri dish to strategy and transformation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I address that, please?
Yes, go ahead.
So, thank you for that question. I happened to be in Tunisia last year, and the government recognized that they are producing many graduates that the job market wasn't able to absorb. They brought quite a few of us that have had successes in startups, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And they paid the students and us for 1 week. I'm not saying that 1 week is going to shift. What the goal is, we planted a seed. And I share with every one of them that I did not go work for some organization when I finished my PhD. I went to work for a startup that could have folded the following day. But because of my drive for innovation and entrepreneurship, we made it such that this company that started with 10 people was acquired for $380 million. The product from that small company is changing healthcare. I think we need to also, as we're training our students, we shouldn't just train them to go get the next job. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying, but we should be training them to think bigger than a job. We should give them the skill set to be entrepreneurs. We should give them the skill set to problem solve, as opposed to be the excellent, first class. There's nothing wrong with that. But I look back in my history and I tell folks, engage with young students. I tell them, don't think that when you're finishing, you have to. Please go start your own company. Find someone with a great idea. Think about all the rich people in America. They started companies. So we need to ingrain that in our graduates.
Certainly, Dr. Ibe, and as you know, in fact, not only Tunisia has that, South Africa, NRF actually pays. They brought me 3 years in a row to Johannesburg. We went to all of the universities. The idea is how you take research in the lab and you translate them. As you know, I've done 3 startups myself. How you take ideas from the lab and you translate them into real life. If there is a problem to be solved, our thinking should be how we apply our basic knowledge to solving problems. And if there's a need, there's always somebody who is ready to pay for that. If you're able to solve a problem, there will be somebody who is going to pay for it. You bring in value to the world through your education. And so it's a mindset that has to shift from just getting papers and books, but translating those papers into real life, solving real life problems. Dr. Okello talked about filtration. You look at water, there's problem with water. You have microbes there, you have all sorts of chemicals there, you want to remove them. Creating technologies that would be useful for real life. I didn't have a lot of time to talk about some of the things that we did in my lab. We have created technologies to help people, physicians, measure pain. Every time you go around and you talk, you go to the hospital, they say you're in pain. And they give you a face chart on a scale of 1 to 5. How much is your pain? This is why we have opioid crisis, because you cannot measure pain objectively. And we're doing that. And so you want curriculum that would go beyond the basic science and to actually solve problems. And that's really the key for helping address some of the issues that we've been talking about. Fashion, over to you. We have a lot of people's hands up there.
Magnesium.
Magnesium. Yeah, magnesium. Can we go to Stella then? Williams.
Stella Williams, we're waiting for magnesium.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. I'd like to, first of all, appreciate the Toyin Falola group that has put this up. And I want to thank you for the time you've taken to actually let us listen to the panelists' answers to your question. You are touching a vein in my life because for me, we're talking about something that I've been passionate about. I started teaching in secondary school, Methodist Girls High School, and when the girls were not excited about mathematics, science, any of those, I decided to go to a teacher training college, the Advanced Teachers College, to find out why. Because I went to one of the best schools, Queen's College, and I had the best time with my mathematics and my science. So I wanted to know why these girls at the Methodist Girls High School were not excited as I am. And that's why I went to a teacher training college. And that's where I got my first challenge because I went to a UNESCO meeting and I was maybe too talkative, as I'm now doing, asking questions because I was interested. And then the desk officer, who is a Nigerian woman, asked me, what's my background? Oh, I said, BSc, diploma in education. He said, no, we work with experts. And I said, what's the background of the experts? And she said, PhD. And of course, that gave me a challenge. And because I am blessed with the best husband in this whole wide world, I got back home and he allowed me to go and do my PhD, which I got at the age of 40. By this time, I was lucky to get into University of Ife, where I met Falola and Okonofwa. And I was a Frankenstein, as I am now, because what I want us to do with this group is to find how we can be in touch with each other to be able to partner and collaborate because we have a common goal. And if we don't have contacts, after this meeting, that's the end of it. And I'm praying that we can have the contact of all the panelists and all the members here to see who is ready to work with whom and on what basis and on what platform. Currently, I am engaged with 4 groups. The Organization of Women in Science for Development, African Women in Agricultural Research for Development, Nigerian Women in Research and Development, and lastly, Catching Them Young, because I am a teacher, not a lecturer. From age 8 to 24, we have Mundus Maris, Science, Arts, and Sustainability. And every year we celebrate World Ocean Day, whereby these young people who have any contact with water would have environmental ecosystem approach. So I pray that we can have contact with each other and be able to work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much for that passion. I will speak with Professor Sadik. Is there at the moment a diasporal organization of scientists? Do you have one?
I am not aware of any. Dr. Ivy, do you know?
I know in medicine, yeah, but otherwise, no.
Okay, this is a good outcome. If this is the only outcome we have, I would write a proposal because we have 4 writers. We have African Writers Association in the US. So I think it's possible to create an African diaspora scientist. If you want to just make it women only, then we pursue that. But we'll follow up this conversation. Professor Simon Akua.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. First of all, apologies for coming in late. I had to go to church. I just came back. Yes, I am in the United States. I'm a professor of theology. So I'm in a different world altogether from where you guys are in, but I can be in dialogue with you for the following reasons. I don't know if this was said earlier on, but it's worth saying. Dr. Ibe, when you made the comment about in the US, everyone goes and that the real world is not like that and not that. I would like to push back a little bit by saying that we create that world. We have created that toxic world. We can uncreate it. We can uncreate it by creating a different way of imagining, a way of tapping into people's talents. Because creativity is not just the ability to do one thing, it's the ability to be fluid, to be resilient, to be able to go beyond the known and then to surprise people and even surprise yourself. And I think that is what the new model we're approaching to the psychology of education to say, okay, let's focus on a positive mindset on this person so that people can find their talents, even they may not be good in mathematics, but they may be good in literature. But how do they find that? Is through a positive enhancement and encouragement. Now, that said, there is something I want to say, and this was something I learned from my female colleagues at my previous university. And she just literally asked me, political scientist, Simon, send me your syllabi. So I sent them to her. She said, where are the women in your syllabi? And I'm the one who is writing all the time, talking about women's rights and all that stuff. Well, yes, women have to be there. And I was a man. And then suddenly it dawned on me, I'm a trained philosopher also. I was never taught any female philosopher. The female philosophers I know, I studied on my own. Now, how many women do we teach about when we talk about teaching science to women, to girls in our schools from elementary school? Just ask yourselves, how many women scientists were you exposed to when you were in school, even from elementary or even college? So is it only men's world? It's not a man's world. You and I live in a society where women were primarily fundamental stakeholders. So it is natural for women to be scientists in Africa than even the West. So we are throwing out something that is very natural to us. And now that said, I want to end up with the last comment and this is my little challenge to you, Professor Sadik. You said, science is expensive. I beg to differ. I beg to disagree. Science is very cheap. Let me tell you why. When I was growing up as a little boy, do you know that we used to drink water, cold water from clay pot? That's something most people don't know about today. Now you're talking about pollution, energy consumption. How much energy will a clay pot consume if we were to sophisticatedly create clay pots now as a way of refrigerating our waters, rather than the deep freezers and all that stuff we have? I think what we need to ask, I'm pushing you guys to be more radically decolonially conscious. That it's not enough to just use that word. Is to think radically and put your thought process on the table and challenge those thought processes. Science is very easy when we ask our original questions, because all scientific progress is about asking the questions that are relevant to the people. So if we ask a Nigerian question, then science will become cheap. But when we ask an American question in our Nigerian institutions, then science will become expensive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Chinedum Babalola.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm glad to get this, to have gotten this invitation to join by a colleague. Thank you, Professor Falola, for putting this up. And I've been listening for a while. I'm a pharmacist and a professor of pharmaceutical chemistry. And I've also led a university as a vice chancellor. And I'm back to, University of Ibadan teaching. And I can tell you a lot of transformation has taken place in my teaching life, even after not teaching for 7 years. I've realized what it means to really, I don't call it teaching, coach people, which I don't know what to call her, Madam Dr. Professor Stella Williams talked about. The way we pass knowledge is extremely important, and we need to learn and relearn. I came back and I saw, for some reason, part of the policies I put as a vice chancellor in Chrisland, I started practicing them. Few months I've been in the class. I'm now I'm mentoring them to think like pharmacists. What do you want them to be? No matter the subject it is. And the result is amazing. I get text messages of you saved my life and stuff like that. I never like to cram and pour. So let's look at how we communicate science to girls, to boys, to whoever. As a chemist, I believe life is chemistry. Chemistry is life. You can't mix, you can do without that. So that said, that's one point. The other one, I was worried when I heard that some universities are all female. I was worried, and I was wondering what value does it really add? I prefer the females are brought up to compete. In Academy of Science, I'm a fellow of Nigerian Academy of Science. We do not give waivers to women. Rather, we create more awareness for women to come up and they compete on the same table. And there are times we get 50-50. The reason is because they were not made aware of those opportunities. So that's our rule, and I love it that way. There's no woman that becomes an FAS and because she was a woman. And then in the University of Ibadan, before I left 7-8 years ago, it was 50-50, the population. 50-50. At the point, it became 51. In Chrisland, it's almost like 67, more ladies, much more than the boys. Again, for the 7 years I was there, the best graduating students were females. We never had a boy as the best graduate. And that happens in UI as well. So women are not dumb. It's just what we make out of them. And there are many opportunities. But where my problem is this, and we can't throw it away. Women are emotional. Women are vulnerable. We are talking about maybe 1% that are doing well. Go to the streets, people carrying babies, backing babies, teenage pregnancy, all those are girls. The boys don't get pregnant. And I think that's where we should focus. How do we start to even prevent that? There's a lot of work in our hands. And even if they've had that accident, how do they take care of baby? They are selling fish, they are no longer going to do your science. Let's face it. Many don't even have husbands to lean on. They just have children and they have to fend for themselves. So that population that population is high, which we need to focus. 3, women are emotional. We're Africans. They want to marry, they want to have children. We must, also mentor them that way. As a young girl, I didn't have any inhibition. I wanted to have my PhD at 25, professor at 35, all those things we have. I didn't even put marriage in it. But the minute I got married, I had 10 years. I got them after 10 years. I still got them. But you see, you can't rule away that. Let's not talk as if we don't marry. We don't have to care about children. But how do we manage those kind of things? I see myself mentoring women that are over 40. They're still doing their PhD. And I love to help them. So there must be a way we want to balance. With respect to cost, it's expensive to do science. I do pharmacokinetics. pharmacogenetics. I have HPLC in my lab. It's no longer working. Let's face it. You have a lot of these things. The government may donate sustainability, reagents. They are not working. We send our samples abroad to do mass spec, GCMS, and get the results. Those things are not working. Probably the diaspora group by Professor Falola may help. Don't just dump equipment for us. What of the reagents, resources, money to keep them running? There is no science. Go to the primary school, secondary school, there are donations. Those equipment are there. The teachers don't even know how to do it. So that area we also need to address. So I would stop there for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Femi Badejo.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate, like Professor Stella Williams had done, and others too, appreciate the exposure that this panel interview has given people like myself. Yes, I know my former Vice Chancellor who just spoke, and I know that she's one of our Amazons in science, but to see so many others across the continent in the diaspora is much appreciated. But I thought that I want to make two comments. A university for women is done in some countries for a different reason. In some countries, it is done on religious basis, where they decide that a woman and a man must not stay together in a classroom. If we want to set about it on that basis, then fine. But if it is in encouraging women, as Professor Falola pointed out, men are becoming the endangered species when it comes to reading beyond immediate college effort. So I don't think that should be one of the priorities. Then I thought that I would react to Dr. Badejo. Somebody had already done that, but I also feel that I should point out that our background is different from what he was saying. Our background is one that Ubuntu very much exemplifies, and that is, I am because you are. And that point was very well brought up in an explanation of a group of children who were to run a race, and they were running a race, and one of the children was lagging behind. All the others stopped, went back to collect the one that was lagging behind, and said, we must reach the end together. That is our spirit. I know that Dr. Badejo mentioned the real world. That world that we are colonized into, that we are part of, that we cannot but be part of, cherishes competition, competition, competition in everything. But can we come up with walking on both legs? That the reality of the world we are in today, the reality of the Omoluabi, Ubuntu, that has civic mindedness as part of its essence, to allow us to carry as many people as are able. I'm glad, I was excited when he said his son came back with an award, and he said, what did you do to deserve that? Of course, it looks like the West is beginning to realize that Ubuntu is it. And I appreciate the college that gave your son the award for just being part of the whole exercise. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Professor Falola, and the Falola interviews. And of course, the facilitator you have also been very great. All of us have been talking about the panelists, but you have been fantastic, knowing about you and everything. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Magnisa Fashion. Please unmute yourself. Sir, unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Unmute. Can I be heard now, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I like to express my profound appreciation for what Professor Falola has been into in terms of contemporary epistemology in Africa and across the world. Let me also express my gratitude to the panelists. The discussion has been very exciting. From the very topic itself about the contribution of women to science and technology in Africa, the first person that came to my mind, one of the persons that came to my mind was Professor Adenike Oyinlola Oshofisa, the 75-year-old wife of Emeritus Professor of Literature and Drama, who herself was the first African professor of computer science. From the discussion so far, I was thrilled by the fact that Professor Ngila's dad was referring to her as a Mr. It's a lot. Although we might see it as an African kind of thing, but for those of us who not only study literature, but also studied law, we know that in the legal practice, in the legal parlance, there's no woman. We refer to them as learned women, learned men in skirts, to distinguish between a female lawyer and a male lawyer. Now, my contribution is that in terms of policy, this question that was tossed up by Professor Toyin Falola regarding the possibility of having an all-women university, the various reactions has been very exciting also. But my contribution here is that in terms of policy for government and non-organizations and private sectors, it is worth the while that in recognition of the role of the woman as the hand that rocks the cradle, it's a lot of development that African scholars can think in that direction to look at what can we do about the contribution of women vis-a-vis the education of the child. I happen to have studied law before my daughter studied law at Obafemi Awolowo University. Now, by the time she wanted to write her project, she told me she was looking for a topic to write on. And I said, while I was working on local standing in admiralty proceedings, I also did something on Mariva injunction. Will it be possible for you to use the materials I didn't eventually use for my projects? She said yes, but she already had a topic, and that the topic was admiralty jurisdiction in Nigeria. I said for LLB, for Bachelor of Laws, that might not be possible because even for a PhD, then you may have to look at Nigerian coastal lines from Badagry to Lagos to Calabar, etc. Then eventually we have to sit down and look at continental shelf. What I'm saying here is that for the woman who is a mother, who has to interrogate the child, just like some of us fathers too, regarding what she's writing, I think it's a lot of development for us to ensure that the issue of decolonizing our minds, which was essentially the preoccupation of the lately demised Professor Ngugi wa Thiong'o, will start from those radical perspective of looking into what is going on in the house, in the home. So to that extent, I'm eternally grateful and appreciative of that. Now, from my own point of view as a teacher, somebody mentioned on this platform that he's not just a lecturer, but he's a teacher. I want to look also in that direction that the teacher is not just a teacher, he's also a missionary. He's a missionary. Because in teaching my student here, I teach at Wesley University, Ondo, where although my first, second, and third degree is literature, but at 100 level, I had taken electives in history and history of philosophy and then comparative philosophy. So at GNS here, I teach history and philosophy of science. And because from time to time, there are new developments that are happening, you know, the space theories regarding Mars, regarding Elon Musk, you know, you have to make the students learn certain things that are very contemporaneous, you know. So as much as possible, it helps me to not only teach the students, but also socialize them into the use of their Google to look at what is the distance between here and Mars, what is the diameter of the sun, how many Earths as a planet can we get in the size of the sun. Those things are very, very important. And Professor Okonofua, who was online a little while ago, I met him when they were going to give him a chieftaincy title in Ondo Kingdom, where we are resident here. And I remember when I was to read his citation, I mentioned the fact that he went to Karolinska, and that Karolinska was one of those universities that has produced the greatest number of medical professor laureates in the world. So what I'm saying here is that we teachers must not only look at the fact that we are teaching, but we are also in a religious, hypersensitive environment, that what we are actually doing is to expose the minds of those students so that they can learn that there isn't anything that the man can achieve that the woman cannot achieve. So to that extent, I want to feel very blessed that this is an opportunity given to me through Professor Toyin Falola, who linked me up to the group. And I wish the platform will continue, like somebody has suggested, so that continuously there will be we'll continue to have a platform to work together, to collaborate together. And in a world in which there are interfaces, my PhD is on literature and medicine, actually. And I was going to do something on literature and medicine like they do in Johns Hopkins for my university here, to realize that we are not talking about interfaces between areas of knowledge, epistemology, that before now was mutually exclusive. So to that extent, I want to appreciate this platform, and I want to congratulate Professor Falola and all our learned professors that have listened to. The topics were so exciting, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please, let's take only two more so that the panelists can rest, and all of you can go and have your dinner. Rose Uche, Rose. Rose. Udo Michael. Please go ahead.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Professor. I'm so happy to be a part of this. Good evening, all the participants. Actually, my contribution is more centered on Africa and the diaspora. Now, when Professor mentioned something about diaspora, I said, yes, this is something within what I was about to say. Now, I noticed something about Africa and the diaspora. There's always seemed to be this disconnection between the two. That's why we have this, diaspora wars. So, but I think that Africa should be more intentional about connecting with our people over there in diaspora, whether it's people of African descent or Africans who are, who had migrated there. For instance, we have so many brains who are helping the advancements of science and technology in other parts of the world, while Africa is being left behind. So if there's a way we can come up with collaboratory measures where we can connect our people together so that we can advance as a people, so we can use our own brains to advance our continent, to advance the Black race, instead of having them going out there, especially with this current Japa syndrome we have in Nigeria, where so many people of the working class have left Nigeria. I know so many people who have left Nigeria, people who would have made significant contributions to the advancement of our country. But because of, looking for greener pastures and all of that, we've had people go out into Western Europe and in the different parts. Is you should come up with Africa should connect our people together so that we can use our brains, our people for the advancement of our own continent rather than having that disconnect. Like I was so happy to see Professor Lucie, who is from Haiti, being a part of this discussion, roundtable can connect our people together and let Africa not allow the diaspora to be so disconnected from us.
Thank you, Udo.
Let the continent and the diaspora be connected.
Thank you. Sir. Part of the takeaway from this is a suggestion to create an African diaspora network of scientists. I will put the proposal together, send it to IB and Professor Sadik. Professor Perelbi, you may be the last person unless Rose Ochia wants to come back. Professor Perel. Okay, Rose, go ahead.
I'm mute. Okay. Good evening, everyone, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm very happy and delighted to be here and attend the short talks webinar. I'm an MSc student doing agriculture and entomology from Egerton University in Kenya. But currently I'm doing my exchange program at Zurich University of Applied Science in Switzerland. So I'm very happy to see fellow women who have gone some miles ahead of us, teaching us in the screen, and been willing to attend the award group meeting like this, African Women in Science. So I would like to express my really joy about this. And also I've gotten encouraged because I belong to a group called the Mtawa Group, that is a mentoring network for African women in academia, which I joined when I was just in my undergraduate course. And it's from here that I got the connection. So I'm really happy about the discussion concerning encouraging young women to join in science, and we really need to be encouraged. And I would wish that this one, maybe we start from the lower ground, right from the secondary schools, right from primary schools, where we can even form groups of science student or pupils. Because I teach agriculture and biology in secondary school. And I encountered this when I was working with pupils, with students. They need encouragement, and they also need listening ear. That you don't only go to class and do the instructional education and that is it. No, we have to, I found out that we need as teachers to follow behind this pupil, this student. What is it that is happening to this student that doesn't allow her or him to participate in class? And I happen to teach in girls' school, all of them, except the last one that I taught in mixed school. So I'm very happy, and I hope that we will continue learning. I will continue having this kind of webinar so that we can get we can learn from you as I would say, the predecessors, to those that have done much that we can now see as our signboard. There is Professor Catherine, there is Professor Lucie, so that I can say that with this, I'm able to reach where they have reached. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to give the honor to round us up to Professor Falola. You know, in Yoruba culture, you have to acknowledge those who have gone before us. And I'd like to say thank you to the panelists for your excellent contributions, to the audience for your patience and your contributions. And over to Professor Falola to close us up. Thank you, Prof.
Maybe there are closing statements to make.
Just one thing that I think is important to the group. We've been talking about this diaspora existence of a diaspora group. I want to tell the group that actually there is.
Okay.
There's a maybe later on you can check on the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. There is an alumni, and I was just looking at our WhatsApp group. There are 183 members. So it's a program that is designed for African-born African-born but working in the diaspora. Yeah, so you could check it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to make closing statements? Okay, if there are no closing statements, in middle of December, we're going to have a conversation on women in Africa, which will take this format to be moderated by Professor Adelakun of the University of Chicago. On behalf of our team, we're very grateful. You know, Zoom is just one of the platforms. People have joined on Facebook and YouTube because the data is much cheaper. And we have partners in so many countries who have joined. The media has also joined us. They will be issuing their reports. I do not know the angle that will take. And I'll be sending the reports to all of you and posting them. I also write for the media my own take on this panel. I've written the first essay. I will release the second essay by Monday, and I will reflect on what you have all said. Thank you all. I'm Professor Wunmi Sadik. Is the first woman scientist to win the Nigerian National Order of Merit. So she is a major figure. We're very grateful. We'll also be holding a panel on translating research into policy with Professor Adeshida and those whom is able to recruit. On behalf of this team, our technical partners, we are very grateful. Go and have your dinner or your lunch, wherever you are. You've all been great and terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.